Alright, CP Discord, it's Matthew. I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of the Santa's Workshop Windows 10 practice image created by the CSSE dev team, which is led by Shiversoft Dev and also includes Rainbow Dynamics, the iMac Noob, as well as myself. The obvious first thing to do when we open up a practice image is to read the Readme, so let's go ahead and do that now. When reading the Readme, you should be taking notes of the users and critical services that are allowed, as well as the tasks that you are directed to accomplish. In the scenario, the README tells us that Santa does not allow media files on this computer, as well as hacking tools or other unauthorized programs. And the only critical applications and services on this computer are Microsoft Edge, which is the default browser, and the Bionics video wallpaper. I've disabled it for the purpose of this video, however, you should not interfere with it or you may be penalized. And finally, the README also hints that one of the users has been deleted and we will need to add them back, so we'll do that in a bit. I also have our scoring report open so we can quickly check what we got points for. Now, the first thing after you reading the README is to answer forensic questions. This is so you don't start working on your checklist and accidentally delete something or lose information that you may need to answer one of the forensic questions. So I'm going to go ahead and open up forensic question 1. And forensic question 1 reads, at Santa's workshop, communication is very important. Because of this, the elves have decided to implement bulk instant messaging through WinSMS. During a security audit, extremely permissive file permissions were enumerated and identified in the WinSMS installation directory. These permissions could allow an unprivileged user to execute arbitrary code with system-level privileges. According to the ACL of C Program Files 86 WinSMS, what is the SDDL string associated with its permissions? Alright, SDDL strings, or Security Descriptor Definition Language strings, are a representation of the permissions configured on an object, such as a directory, a file, a service. In this forensics, we're asked to identify the string for auditing purposes, and it's useful because it's a string that takes up a little amount of space and can be parsed for further investigation. The easiest and most efficient way we're going to be able to do this is through the administrator PowerShell using the git-acl commandlet. So what I'm going to do is open up PowerShell and make sure that I'm running it as an administrator. And you should see our nice art here. Great. So what we're going to type is git-acl, and the forensic question wants to know the ACL of the WinSMS installation directory, which is going to be C Program Files 86 WinSMS. And we're going to pipe that and say select -expand property SDDL. And everything here shown is the SDDL string. All we need to do is copy it and paste it as our answer. And submit that question. Alright, the next forensic question, it has two parts. The first part asks, as a temporary file server solution during a backup of workshop resources, the system was configured to share C Workshop anonymously throughout the network. What is the configured share name for this resource? Alright, in updated versions of Windows 10, newer versions of PowerShell have useful management commandlets that are available to manage SMB shares. So we're going to use one of these commandlets to solve the question. To list the file shares available on the system, we can use the git-smb share commandlet. So I'm just going to type git-smb share. And as the question stated, the system is sharing C Workshop under the share name goody followed by a $sign. By the way, if you didn't know, a $sign at the end means it's a hidden share. So what I'm going to do is copy and paste that as our answer to the part 1. Next, part 2 asks, according to the share permissions of this resource, what permissions have been configured for all users? So, if we run git smb share access on this share, we can see the share permissions that have been granted on the resource. So we do git smb share access and then -name, oops, I have caps lock on, and goody followed by a $sign. And as you can see, the configured permissions on this share are allow and full for the everyone group, which is all users. So our answer to forensic question part 2 is allow, comma, full. I'm going to go ahead and submit that as well. Great. So now we're done with forensics. There were only 2 questions, and I like to move on to user auditing. You can do most of user auditing in the local user manager, so I usually head there first. If you go to the run prompt, you can type lusr_mgr.msc in the run prompt. However, you'll notice that right now if we do Windows R, the run prompt doesn't appear. So we could search in the search box, but it would be easier to re-enable it to save time later down in the road when we need to use the run box again. The way we're going to re-enable the run box is to go to group policy or gpedit.msc. And there's also another way to do this in the Windows registry, but I'll just not show that to you right now. If we're in the local group policy editor window, we can navigate to settings, in user configuration, administrative templates, and start menu and taskbar. And here I can sort the state by disabled and enabled. And let's find the setting remove run menu from start menu. What we can do is we can either set this to not configured or disabled, either works, and this will help bring back the Windows R prompt. While we're here, I want to set a setting that will be important later, which is do not search for files. And I'll explain to you later why we're going to change the setting back, but right now I'm going to go ahead and set do not search for files. We also need to go to one more important place. We are going to go to Windows Components, File Explorer, and we see turn off Windows hotkeys. We need to undo that as well. So set it to not configured or disabled. Once we have those 3 settings set in group policy, it will undo what we did to block the run prompt, and we should be able to get the run prompt back as soon as we log out and log back in. The reason is that the user configurations are set on login. You don't even need to reboot the system. You can simply log out and log in again. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And I'm going to go ahead and enter the password, which I have in front of me. So once we get back into the image, we should be able to do Windows R, and the run prompt should come back as well as other Windows shortcuts. Perfect, we get the run prompt. First, we're going to head to the local user manager, which is, actually before I do that really quickly, I'm going to go ahead and kill Discord in the task manager because it's really annoying. All right. If we go to the local user manager.msc, you'll see that there are options to configure both users and groups in here. I'll do users first. If you look closely, you'll see there exists a little down arrow to signify if an account is disabled or not. The only accounts that should be disabled are the default administrator and guest accounts. If I pull up the list of unauthorized users from the Readme, you'll notice that Santa, excuse me, that was a forensic question. Santa is an authorized user. However, he is disabled. So let's go ahead and fix that for him by heading into properties and undisabling his account. And since the administrator account is not disabled, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. It is always a good idea to disable your default administrator and guest accounts so hackers do not target them as a point of entry. Then we can go ahead and look at the authorized and unauthorized users in the system. According to the README, an authorized user has been deleted on accident and we need to re-add them. If we compare the list of users in the local user manager and the list of users in the README, you can see that Cupid is supposed to be in the system, but his account is nowhere to be found. So all I have to do is right click and add a new user called Cupid. And that's it. Then if we look at who is on the system who should not be there, we'll see that Rudolph is not allowed to use the computer. So I'm going to go ahead and delete his account. All right. Next, we can head into groups and check that only authorized administrators are a part of the administrator group. Unfortunately, Prancer, who is a standard user, is in here, which means we should remove his account from the group. And now that I'm done with user auditing, I can go ahead and exit out of the local user manager. As a system administrator, you always have to be cognizant of the latest security updates and when they come out. And the easiest way to do this is to enable automatic Windows updates to have them install it automatically for you. To do this, we need to navigate to the Windows Update service, which is in services.msc, another shortcut from the run prompt. Once we're in the services, I'm going to hit W to scroll down and find the Windows Update service. Now, you'll see that the service is running. However, the startup type is manual and it should be automatic, as we should be installing and updating automatically. All right. Another thing, Santa disallows any type of media files on his computer. So this means that we should be searching the system for any unauthorized media files or prohibited files. I like to use a tool called Everything. However, if your choice is to use the File Explorer, Command Prompt, PowerShell, or any other choice, you're absolutely welcome to do that as well. I'll show you why I like using Everything, but ultimately the decision is up to you as long as you get the same end result. So I'm just going to go ahead and set up Everything. It's pretty simple to install. I'm just going to go ahead and skim through this, and then it should be set up. Great. Now it's going to go ahead and start running, and we can go ahead and start searching for something. So what we can do is type wildcard.png, and this is actually a handy trick to list any files that end in .png. I'm going to filter it by the path, which will be easier to skim through because most of the time all of your hidden files are in common directories, and you would have an easier time finding prohibited files there. For example, I'd like to point out that we see that there exists a universal truths directory in the C drive, and this is obviously not default in Windows, containing propaganda against Rudolph. So what we can go ahead and do, right-click this image, and we can delete it. And if you wanted to see the image, you'll just have to do the practice image yourself. Another thing we can search for is MP3, for example, to find all files that end in .mp3. I believe Achievement Unlocked is a default file in Windows, so it does not matter too much. However, tunes.mp3 has obviously been placed in Santa's desktop by Santa, and they are not at all allowed to have any sort of gift whatsoever. We have to get rid of tunes.mp3. Now, I don't know why it's not deleting in here, so I'm just going to navigate to it in the command or the file explorer. So it's in C, users, Santa, desktop, tunes, and you can just delete it. Now, if you're wondering what these are, this is just the file that went into the recycle bin, and you don't need to worry about it. All right. Now that we've found all of our unauthorized media, we can go to Control Panel, and then Programs and Features. And here you will be able to find a list of programs that are installed on the computer. Remember that in our Readme, the only two programs allowed are Microsoft Edge and Bionics, and so everything else must go. Starting with WinRAR, I'm just going to uninstall it. Next with Firefox, because Edge is supposed to be our default browser. Great. So now that Firefox is installed, because Edge is supposed to be the only browser on the computer. And I shall also uninstall Discord because it is a chat messaging app that Santa would not approve of on the computer. Great. Now, Discord does something weird where they install themselves into app data for whatever reason. So I'm going to go to the folder directly and delete it. Normally, if it was installed in program files, the program file folder would be deleted if you uninstall the program. So I'm just going to go to local app data, which is C, users, elf shelf, app data. And we see Discord in here. What we can do, right click, delete. Finally, going back to the control panel, if we attempt to uninstall WinSMS, you can see that the application opens and gives us lots of error messages. So what we can do instead is go directly to the program files of WinSMS. and we should be able to delete. So if I go to C program files and I find the WinSMS installation directory, you'll notice that if I right click and just delete, it tells me I don't have permission. And if I'm in here and I just delete, you'll see that the only thing giving me a permission error is this executable. So what we can do is go into Properties, Security, Advanced, and make ourselves the owner of the file. And this way we will be able to get a better understanding of what is going on. Once we exit out, and we can head back in again because Windows is weird like that. And now that we are the owner, we can give ourselves all permissions. But more importantly, there are 3 access control lists that deny us the right to this, deny administrators the right to this, and deny users the right to this. So I'm going to remove those 3 access control lists, or ACLs, and this should give us the permissions to delete this. So when I try to delete WinSMS again, it gives us a different error than before. This time it's saying that the folder is in use and the only program inside of it is running. An easy way to deal with this is just to go to Task Manager and go to Details. And if you find the executable that you don't approve of, you can simply kill the task and then try the process again. And finally, if you head to Local Security Policy, which is secpol.msc, starting off with password policies, it's always a good idea to have secure passwords. For example, a password history of 5. A good minimum password age is 90. A good maximum password age is 10. Good minimum password length, 10 characters, and passwords must meet complexity requirements, obviously. And also store passwords using reversible encryption. We do not want that. Now, on to some local policies. We go to Audit Policy, and as a good rule of thumb, it is always good to audit everything as successes and failures. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, so now that we have audited everything as success and failure, we can also take a look at security options. There are several important security options in here. The first one being interactive logon, do not require Control-Alt-Delete. This essentially determines whether a user has to press Control-Alt-Delete before they log on, and we should disable this policy to prevent them and to force them to press Control-Alt-Delete. This is to prevent an exploitation of the login shell, because back when interactive services were allowed, you could apply a service at boot and have users type in their credentials to a fake login screen. But now, if you type Control-Alt-Delete, it'll kill everything and doesn't allow Windows services. So this should be set to disabled. Don't display last signed in. On a shared workstation, each user is entitled to their own privacy and security, even if it's being shared. That means that if a user can see who logged on before them, the likelihood of an attack towards that person may increase. And for the purposes of this machine being in a work environment, users should only attempt themselves to log in and should not be able to see who logged in before them. So I'm going to set this to enabled. Microsoft Network Client, digitally signed communications, always. As we mentioned in Forensic Question 1, SMB is a network service that's used to share files. So while this machine is used as an SMB server, both servers and clients should ultimately be treated as clients in general. When the setting is enabled, all communications via SMB to other servers are going to be digitally signed to prevent man-in-the-middle attacks. So we are going to enable this. And finally, accounts limit local account use of blank passwords to console logon only. Enabling this setting is going to prevent users from creating accounts with blank passwords, and if there are already users with configured blank passwords, enabling the setting is going to restrict the logon of these users to interactive console, which means you must physically log in at the login screen. And there is one more thing I'd like to sort out. If you tried to use the command prompt, for example, I'll show you right now, and the image did not let you access the command prompt, this is a similar ACL issue to WinSMS. You can resolve this by going to the C drive, the Windows and System32 directory, and going to cmd.exe. If you go to properties and make yourself the owner of the file, you'll be able to see more information about what is going on with the file. So right now, I can see that there are 3 deny ACLs, denying me access, denying the system, and denying users access to the command prompt. So once I remove these deny ACLs, people should have access to the command prompt again. All right, well, that was a fun walkthrough of the image, and we hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed creating the image. If you have any further questions for us, you can contact me, Shiversoft, Rainbow, or iMac on Discord, and we'll be happy to answer any of your questions. And furthermore, if you liked this image, please stay tuned for any further image releases that we may have.